The stage lights dimmed inside the massive auditorium of America's Got Talent 2026. A quiet buzz filled the room as the host announced the next act, a group called Lightwire from the Philippines. There was no dramatic intro video, no big backstory playing on the screen, just a group of 7 young performers walking out in simple black outfits, holding what looked like thin glowing cables. At the judges' table, there were mixed reactions. One judge leaned forward with curiosity, another looked slightly confused, and a third gave a polite smile that clearly said they weren't expecting much. The audience clapped, but it wasn't the loud kind of applause reserved for favorites. It was more of a welcome, nothing more. Backstage, things had not been easy. Just hours before this moment, the group had nearly fallen apart. Their main choreographer, Miguel, had twisted his ankle during rehearsal. He insisted on performing anyway, even though he could barely stand. The group argued, worried he would ruin their chances. But Miguel said something that changed everything. He told them that this wasn't just a performance, it was their only chance to change their lives and their families' futures. The music started softly, almost too quiet to notice. The stage went completely dark. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then suddenly, thin lines of light appeared in the darkness. The wires in their hands began to glow, forming shapes that moved in perfect synchronization. At first, the audience watched with curiosity. It was interesting, but not mind-blowing. Just glowing lines moving in patterns. One of the judges even reached for their drink, as if settling in for something average. Then the first twist hit. The lights suddenly snapped into a formation that looked like a human heart beating. The rhythm synced perfectly with the music, growing faster and louder. The audience leaned forward. The glowing wires weren't just random props. They were telling a story. The group began to move faster. Their bodies disappeared into the darkness, leaving only the lights visible. Suddenly, it looked like the stage was filled with floating figures made entirely of light. A child, a mother, a man working endlessly. The visuals told a silent story of struggle, sacrifice, and hope. One judge sat upright now, clearly engaged. But backstage, something went wrong. Miguel's ankle gave out for a second. He nearly collapsed. One of the performers noticed but didn't break formation. Instead, they adjusted seamlessly, covering his movement so the illusion stayed perfect. The audience had no idea that the entire performance was seconds away from falling apart. The music shifted into a more emotional tone. The glowing figures now showed a family separated, reaching for each other but never quite touching. The audience grew quiet. You could feel the tension in the room. Then came the second twist. The lights suddenly disappeared again. Total darkness. A gasp spread across the auditorium. For a brief moment, it felt like the performance had ended unexpectedly. And then, out of nowhere, a single line of light appeared at the center of the stage. It slowly grew, expanding into wings. Massive, glowing wings stretching across the darkness. The figure rose, as if lifting itself above everything. The crowd erupted. The judges looked at each other in disbelief. This was no longer just a performance. It was art. Miguel, despite his injury, was at the center of that final formation. His pain was real, but so was his determination. Every movement hurt, but he didn't stop. The music built to its peak. The wings transformed into a burst of light that filled the entire stage, creating a moment so bright that it forced the audience to shield their eyes. And then, silence. The lights went out. For 1 second, there was nothing. Then the entire audience stood up. A standing ovation exploded across the theater. People were cheering, shouting, some even wiping tears from their eyes. The judges were on their feet too, clapping harder than anyone. One judge leaned over and said they had never seen anything like this before. Another called it one of the most creative performances in the history of the show. But the biggest moment was yet to come. One judge, clearly emotional, stood up slowly and reached for the golden buzzer. The group watched in shock, barely breathing. Miguel looked like he might collapse, not from pain this time, but from disbelief. The judge spoke briefly, saying that this performance wasn't just about lights, it was about heart, struggle, and hope. And then the buzzer was pressed. Golden confetti exploded from above, raining down on the stage. The group broke formation instantly, hugging each other, crying, laughing, unable to process what had just happened. Miguel fell to his knees, overwhelmed. His teammates rushed to help him up, but he just kept smiling through tears. Backstage, the crew and staff were equally stunned. No one had expected this quiet group from the Philippines to steal the show. As the camera zoomed out, you could see the entire auditorium still on its feet, clapping non-stop. That night, Lightwire didn't just win a golden buzzer. They won something bigger. They proved that talent doesn't need expensive tools or big names. Sometimes, all it takes is creativity, courage, and the refusal to give up.